All right, let's do this. This is a very important video, so make sure you are taking excellent notes because the skill you're about to learn in this video is going to be applied not only for the rest of this chapter, but it is crucial to your success in next chapter as well. So make sure you take good notes. It's about completing the square. Now, two little things we're going to do before we start completing the square is first, remember how to FOIL. X plus 3 squared is going to give you x plus 3 times x plus 3. Once you FOIL it, you're going to get x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9, which means it's x squared plus 6x plus 9. Notice how this middle, if we were to take half of this number and square it, we get 9. Okay? Same with this. This is x minus 2 times x minus 2. That's going to give us x squared minus 2x plus 4, which is going to give us x squared minus 4x plus 4. See how half of this squared is 4? That's the little secret. So, this stuff right here, this is factoring. Notice this little shortcut again. What is half of 8? 4. Squared is 16. So watch this. What two numbers multiply to 16 but add up to 8? That's an x plus 4 and an x plus 4, which means we can write this as x plus 4 squared. What's the square root of 81? 9. Times 2 is 18. Or what's half of 18 squared? 81. But let's do this the old-fashioned way. What two numbers multiply to a positive 81 but add to a negative 18? That's x minus 9, which means this is x minus 9 squared. Okay? Those are just some old school skills that you need to have, but I just wanted to run through them really quick because in a way that's how you complete the square. So how do you actually do the completing the square? Well, when you're in ax squared plus bx plus c, or if we don't have a c yet, what you need to do is you take half of b, so b divided by 2, and you square it. That's how you find this completed square. So half of 16 is 8, squared is 64. That's how you complete the square. So negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2, squared is a positive 4. This is always going to be a positive on the end. Half of 5 is 5 halves. Squared is 25 fourths. Yes, unfortunately, you will have to deal with some fractions from time to time. Half of 1, or a negative 1, is a negative 1/2. Squared is a positive 1/4, because 1 squared is 1 and 2 squared is 4. You just have to make sure that you know how to complete the square. That's just a little piece of it. That's just the skill. We're going to be solving equations. We're going to be graphing. We're going to be doing all kinds of things with completing the square. Okay? So that's a little review. And this is right here how you actually complete the square. So how are we going to use completing the square? Well, we're going to solve equations. And eventually we're going to reorganize equations so we can graph them easier. So this is what we need to do. X squareds and x's on the left are equal. Put the numbers on the right. So your first step is to make sure that you get only x's on the left. So we have x squared plus 12x is equal to a negative 12. Now notice how I left a little bit of space here. You need to put a little space on both sides like that. And what number is going to go there? That's where the completing the square comes in. So if we take half of 12, we get 6. When we square 6, we get 36. So we add 36 to both sides. Now the reason why we have to add it to both sides is so our equation is still true. Okay? Think about this as like a scale. If we took a scale and we put 10 pounds on each side, and let's say we added 2 pounds to this side. In order to balance that scale, we need to add 2 pounds to the right side so they stay balanced. So you can't just add 36 to the left and expect the right to still be balanced then. So you need to add 36 to both sides. Okay? So, now what do we do? Well, here's a little shortcut again. Remember that factoring thing we did? What two numbers multiply to 36 but add to 12? It was x plus 6 and x plus 6, which means we can write it as x plus 6 squared. That's how you do this. So after this step, you do parentheses with the squared on the outside. Then you put an x here. This symbol comes with it, and half of 12 is 6. That'll work out every time. Now, if you want to factor and ask yourself what two numbers add to 36 or multiply to 36 and add to 12, go right ahead. Equals negative 12 plus 36 is 24. But now look what you can do. Now you can take the square root of both sides, because it's just solving by square roots now, which we did in a previous lesson. That's going to give us x plus 6 is equal to, the square root of 24 is plus or minus 2 root 6. Subtract 6 from both sides and you get x is equal to a negative 6 plus or minus 2 root 6. And you are done. And the reason we have completing the square is because if you look back at the very beginning of this problem, if I told you to solve for x, how were you planning on doing it? You have x squared plus 12x plus 12. Can you think of two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 12? I can't. This can't be factored. So now, here's a little tool for you so you can solve quadratics when they can't be factored. Okay? So I'm going to step through another one with you step by step so you can watch, and then I have a few for you to try on your own, of course. So we already have the number on one side. So what we have to do is we have to leave that space. We have to complete the square on the left. So half of 10 is 5, squared is 25, and that's equal to 3 plus 25. Okay, remember, you need to balance it. So this side is going to turn into x plus half of 10 is 5, squared is equal to 3 plus 25 is 28. Square root both sides. That's going to give you x plus 5 is equal to plus or minus 2 root 7. Subtract 5 from both sides and you get x is equal to a negative 5 plus or minus 2 root 7, and you are now done. So that's how you solve by completing the square. Now you're going to try. So here are quite a few examples. Remember, this is a very important lesson. So why don't you try the first two, and then I will show you how to answer those first two. And then I'll tell you to pause again, and you can try the last two, and then we'll see how you did. Okay? So pause the video, try the first and second one. All right, so let's check and see if you got the first two correct. For this one, you first had to move the 4 to the right side. And then half of 2 is 1, squared is 1, so you had to add 1 to both sides. Obviously, you need to simplify, so negative 4 plus 1 is a negative 3. And this, we just write x, this symbol, and then half of that number. So we have x minus half of 2 is 1. Square root both sides, we have x minus 1 is equal to, can't take the square root of 3, can't simplify it, but the square root of a negative is I. So we have x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus I root 3. Add the 1 to both sides, and there's your final answer. Same kind of thing happened with this guy over here, except for first we had to bring the x on the right back over to the left. So we have x squared minus 12x is equal to a negative 28. Half of 12 squared is 36. Add that to both sides. Write this as the square of a binomial. So we have x minus 6 squared is equal to 36 minus 28 is 8. Square root of 8 is plus or minus 2 root 2. Add 6 over to that side, and you have your final answer. So hopefully you got those two correct. If you do, then obviously move on and try the next two. If you don't, see if you can figure out where you went wrong. Maybe go back and watch the steps to doing it earlier and try the last two examples in today's notes. So pause and try again. So I've decided to start from here because I just want to make sure you guys are writing this part correctly. Half of 3, remember, is 3 halves. And 3 squared is 9, and 2 squared is 4. So you're actually adding 9/4 to both sides. Okay? So your answer is going to have fractions, but that is okay. So from here, we write this side again as the square of a binomial. So this is x plus sign. Half of 3 is 3/2. Closed squared is equal to. Now what you're going to need to do is add 1 to 9/4, and you're going to end up with 13/4. Still fine. Take the square root of both sides, and you have x plus 3/2 is equal to the square root of 13 cannot be simplified, but the square root of 4 is 2. So this is plus or minus root 13 over 2. Subtract 3/2 from both sides, and your final answer is x is equal to a negative 3/2 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2, and you're done. It's a fraction, so what? Your calculator will do it for you. As long as you know the process, you will be fine. So you go try that last one all on your own, start to finish. And here you go. You have x squared minus 30x plus 225 after you take half of 30 and square it. Add 225 to both sides. Combine. Write this as the square of a binomial. You have x minus 15 is equal to plus or minus 3I root 2 after you simplify the square root of a negative 18. Add your 15 over, and you are done. Again, this is a very important topic. You will use this for the rest of this chapter, and you will use it again next chapter. Make sure you know it. If you need to, watch the video again. Make sure you have great notes. This is Longo. I'm out. See you. Bye.